Is Diogo Jota now the best third Liverpool player going into double game week 24? And for us managers that don't own Chris Wood, is it time just to buy him and get him in? Those are the questions that I'll be answering in today's game week 22 transfer plan video, as well as revealing my transfer plan. So as always, if you look forward to today's video, make sure you do drop a like and of course, smash the subscribe button for daily fancy content. Enough waffling, let's go to today's video. So for those keen-eyed viewers out there, you will know that we're currently in the middle of game week 21. We've had the first day out the way. For those wondering, I'm currently on 31 points with Cole Palmer as my captain, but I'm not going to cover off my points in detail because we have so many games still to play. I will do that on Friday's team selection video. So we need to look ahead to game week 22 because even though we're in the middle of game week 21, game week 22 is on Saturday, and before you know it, that is going to be here, and I think it is time to really start thinking about what direction we need to take our team. So here is how my team is looking currently for game week 22. I've got 0 in the bank, but I have got the magical 4 free transfers in the bank. Can I get to 5? That was a goal I wanted at one point in this season. So just checking out the team from top to bottom firstly, understanding who are the players that are great long-term and also the ones that are starting to be a bit of a problem before we take a look at some of the transfers that I'm looking to bring into this team. So Sells at home against Southampton, that picks itself. More than happy with Nottingham Forest defensively for the short-term and long-term until I next wildcard. In terms of my defenders, I think Munoz is absolutely fine. Of course, we'll see what happens in Crystal Palace's game week 21 fixture. But again, I think long-term he is a brilliant attacking defender. Gabriel at home against Aston Villa. Again, I am more than happy to stick with this Arsenal defence. I know a few managers out there are getting a little bit worried about them. I still think they're elite defensively, and Gabriel offers something that others don't in terms of attacking potential. And the first problem player of this team is going to be Trent away against Brentford. Now, I don't view Trent as necessarily a problem, but as somebody who has 0 in the bank and looking to potentially upgrade one of my forwards, I can't really do that unless I free up some funds from particular players. And with him being 7.2 million, he is the most obvious cash cow in this team that would allow me to downgrade to free up funds. So, of course, we need to discuss that in my Game Week 22 future plans. In terms of the midfield, it picks itself, and it looks really good this week. Brighton at home for Bruno Fernandes, Gordon with Bournemouth at home, Palmer with Wolves at home, and Salah away against Brentford. Brilliant midfield. Currently got Semenyo away against Newcastle. He's currently on my bench for game week 21 with a 12-pointer, but I feel fine doing that away against Newcastle. And then we've got the front three. Visser at home against Liverpool, who has been my MVP. Again, he could do well in this fixture, but if I am looking to bring in someone like Chris Wood, I feel like he would be the sacrifice. Isak at home against Bournemouth, perfectly fine. And then, of course, João Pedro away against Man United. Game week 21 will give us a bit more clarification on what to do with João Pedro in game week 22. But I still view him as a player I can absolutely keep for a longer term period, especially at his price point of 5.9 million. So, as you can see with the team, if you told me right now that I couldn't make a transfer, I'd actually be absolutely fine with this team going into game week 22. But there are a couple of players that I have my eyes on that we need to discuss whether I should be prioritising bringing in with maybe 2 or 3 transfers to get there. Let me know in the comment section, how many points are you currently on for game week 21 and what would you do with this team? Let's take a look at some transfers. So is it finally time to say Chris Wood is essential in FPL, and in particular for those managers that don't own him like myself, do we just bite the bullet and bring him in for our teams this weekend? Well, we need to cover that off in this section because I am sick to death of Chris Wood ticking over with these 8 or 9 pointers. And we saw exactly that once again against Liverpool with that ridiculous left foot finish against one of the best keepers in the world. He is just in ridiculous form right now. And we've seen it for not just a couple of months, but basically for 12, 14 months now. So I think we are looking at a player that is consistently going to just keep scoring goals in this Nottingham Forest team. I am very clear of that. Now, we want to cover off the pros and cons of Chris Wood because it isn't all pros. Let's be real. So first up, what are the good things about buying Chris Wood in game week 22? Well, firstly, you are getting the best fixture of game week 22 regardless. Now, of course, we still need to see Southampton play against Man United in game week 21. If there's any team to make Southampton look good, it probably will be Man United. But regardless of what happens, I still think this fixture at home against Southampton is the pick of the bunch. And for those managers that are maybe looking to buy Chris Wood, then I don't think it is a bad time to do so. I mean, you're getting Southampton at home, you're getting Bournemouth away, and you're getting Brighton at home. Yes, they could be a bit middling after that, but let's cover off the pros first. Second highest owned forward. That is another huge factor. Going into game week 21 as a manager that didn't own Chris Wood, I was looking at his ownership thinking, oh my God, if my forward doesn't deliver, the one that basically is in the space of Chris Wood, my rank is going to be really, really impacted. Now, I had Visser this week who did offset it by 6 points, so he did kind of cover it, but each and every week you are looking at your forward saying to yourself, you need to match Chris Wood because otherwise his overall ownership is really going to hurt your rank. I know it's a bit of a safe pick, but sometimes when a player, and I've mentioned it here, is the talisman, the penalty taker in a title chasing team, that's all you really need to say in these situations. He's still a great price at 6.9. He's been doing it for ages and he has all of those things going in his favour. Now, as I said, it isn't all roses with him. He's only managing 2 shots per 90 minutes over those opening 21 game weeks. Now, one would argue that this ridiculous finishing ability will eventually dry up. Others would argue that he is just a fantastic finisher and he only needs 1 or 2 shots per 90 minutes to actually get in amongst the goals. And that probably will suggest why we've only seen a couple of double-digit returns from Chris Wood. He very much is a case of a goal or an assist. Very rarely has he had 2 attacking returns in each game week. And that is the one reason why I haven't felt desperate to bring in Chris Wood, because I know exactly what you're getting from him. He isn't a high ceiling pick. Yes, I do think at one point he will rack up maybe a 15, 16 point haul, but really we've seen enough data now to suggest that he is going to be the guy who gets you 1 goal and 2 or 3 bonus. But who is sniffing at that at all? It is fantastic value. The other thing that I want to say is I believe that the fixtures are a little bit mixed. Now, I think the next 3 are fantastic, but then Fulham away isn't easy. Then we got Newcastle away. Again, go back to his old club. You could chase that theory if you want to. And then Arsenal at home. But again, we saw Forest put up competitive games against pretty much all of the top sides. I would not rule out them doing well in these difficult fixtures. But I think the next 3 are fantastic. But I don't think I'm looking at Chris Wood as a non-owner and saying, oh my God, this guy over the next 6 could destroy me. So it very much is a case of game week 22 and game week 24 where I'm a little bit scared not to own Chris Wood. I think the conclusion is this. If you've got a really easy way to get Chris Wood, I would just get it done for game week 22. I think it's very simple. But if you're in a position like myself where you are going to have to sell quite an important player, whether it be a Trent or a Bruno Fernandes, and I don't think it is as just clear cut as you have to get in Chris Wood regardless. Because I do think there are forwards out there that have been matching him each and every game week. And that is the decision that we need to make for the team this week, which I will cover off at the end of this video. Now, one player that I am really excited to talk about is going to be the return of Diogo Jota with that goal in game week 21 against Nottingham Forest. Now, a quick reminder, he is a midfielder in the game for those that were thinking he is a forward, because it is very easy to get that wrong. And he's 7.2 million, which I think is a brilliant price point and makes him a very competitive pick in FPL, because you're putting him up against the likes of Brian Mbeumo, you're putting him up against people like Gordon, you're putting him even up against people like Eze at a slightly cheaper price. So if you do go for Diogo Jota at the end of this, you do need to remember that you are probably avoiding some other picks that might be a bit more of a safer choice. But I think there's something about Diogo Jota each and every season where we would love to have him in our teams. It's just getting him in at the right time. And I feel like that time might be coming very, very soon. So again, just a quick cover off some of the pros and cons of Diogo Jota, because I do think they are very, very even in both of those categories. Firstly, the pros. The fixtures between game week 23 and 25 are incredible. So Brentford away in game week 22, I would argue you don't have to rush to bring him in for that fixture. You could use that as an opportunity maybe just to monitor his game time after coming on as a sub in game week 21 and then reassess. But game week 23 to 25, we've got Ipswich at home, a double in game week 24, and then we've got Wolves at home in game week 25. Now, to give a bit of context to the timescale of these fixtures, Brentford, of course, plays on the Saturday. Ipswich is the following Saturday, and then Bournemouth is a week after that. Then, of course, we've got the Everton game on the Wednesday, and then they've got the Wolves game on the Sunday. So I actually think the spacing of the games aren't too bad at all. And if Jota is going to be one of those picks that maybe features in the league games, then we have got a pick here that is going to be so hard to resist. When you take a look at the underlying numbers here, I know he's played minimal minutes. He's played about 600 this season in the league. But when he does play, 0.84 expected goals per 90, 1.72 big chances per 90 minutes. Now, we need to cast our minds back to the opening game weeks where Arne Slot had Diogo Jota available to him, and he was the number 9 in this system. We've seen all the rumours of potentially Darwin Núñez going off to Saudi or other teams. That kind of rules out Darwin Núñez as a competitor to Diogo Jota. So I think the only thing that can happen to Jota here is that he doesn't play as a number 9 because Luis Diaz shares the minutes with him. But my narrative and my mindset is that Arne Slot's number 1 forward is Diogo Jota. He's just been waiting for him to be available. Now, what are the cons here? Well, the minutes just have to be a negative towards Diogo Jota. He's actually featured in the last 6 games for Liverpool, but he's come on as a sub in all of them. He's played 11 minutes, 22, 12, 32, 29, 24. So we haven't actually seen him start a game since returning from injury, which is a big, big red flag. The only positive from this is that Arne Slot has come out in the press conference and basically stated that Jota is now available to start games for Liverpool, whereas in the previous game weeks, he never actually said that. So that is a really promising factor. But regardless, even if he is completely fit, we need to remember that there is going to be rotation in this Liverpool team because of the ability that they have with Gakpo, Diaz and Mo Salah. If we make the assumption that Mo Salah is locked in on that right-hand side, we could get a situation right now where Jota is the number 9 and then it is Gakpo and Diaz fighting out for that left-hand side, because I still think that is the best position for both of those players. So my conclusion right now on Diogo Jota is that at 7.2 million, I feel like he's an amazing option. And with a lot of managers having one defensive Liverpool pick and Mo Salah, we're all looking for the best third choice. And I think there is no choice in that Liverpool team that guarantees you 90 minutes in each and every game. And if I was to buy a Liverpool player, I think it would be Diogo Jota in game week 22 or 23 and just accept that I'm rolling the dice for 3 or 4 game weeks. But I know I would be doing that with all of the Liverpool choices outside of someone like a Konate if I double up on the Liverpool defence. So that is the plan right now, is to absolutely buy Diogo Jota. The big question is it this week or in game week 23? Let's take a look at my official game week 22 transfer plans. So here's how my team is currently looking for game week 22. And a quick reminder, I've got 0 in the bank and 4 free transfers available. You can see that at the top of the screen here. And as I mentioned, if I have to actually bring this team into game week 22 and I can't make a transfer, I'm actually completely content with that, because I think I've got the ownership of some of the big players. I think I've got some decent differentials. The problem is, as we've already discussed in the video, no Chris Wood at home against Southampton. And what I want to do quickly, firstly, is show you, if I am going to buy Chris Wood, what sacrifices do I need to make with this team to get there? And then is it actually worth it? So in terms of my forwards, who I would sell, Vissa has been my MVP for the whole season right now. But when we look at the fixtures coming up, I think he could do okay in that game. But when I look at the fixtures, I think they're actually not bad at all. And I would be a little bit loathed to sell Vissa. However, do I think Brentford will win in all of those games? No. But he has been fantastic for me this season. His underlying numbers continue to be one of the best of all forwards. When we look at someone like João Pedro, and again, the factor that we need to remember with João Pedro, he is on penalties and he is cheaper. And that is a problem when I'm selling a cheaper player, is that I need to get even more funds to get to someone like a Chris Wood. When we look at the fixtures coming up, I would argue they are better than Brentford's, or if not better, definitely on par. And I'm getting somebody that is, as I mentioned, pretty much a guaranteed minutes as long as he's fit, and a penalty taker. So reluctantly, if I am going to buy Wood, it would be for Vissa. And bringing him in for the Southampton game does look fantastic. And it would mean that I am 0.9 million short. As you can see, my team value is atrocious this season. So where can I actually get that money from? Well, realistically, the only place that I can extract 0.9 million from is going to be Trent, Bruno Fernandes, or Semenyo. That is literally the only place that we can go. Now, with Semenyo, I would have 4.7 million available. So we need to remind ourselves, is there even a 4.7 million midfielder in the game? And there is. I would have to bring in people like Adama Traore, people like Carvalho. You get the gist. Players that are literally going to be on my bench each and every week rotting, which is not an ideal position to be in, especially when I think midfielders are some of the best in the game. So I don't think selling Semenyo is the way to go. So unfortunately, if I have to bring in Chris Wood, it is going to have to be at the expense of a Trent or a Bruno Fernandes. Now, a quick reminder of Bruno Fernandes' case. We'll see what happens in game week 21. If he scores a hat-trick, he obviously is staying based on just that confirmation bias. But game week 22 at home against Brighton is fine. Away against Fulham in 23, not ideal. Palace at home in game week 24. And then they've got some middling fixtures over this period here. Now, again, I wouldn't want to sell Bruno Fernandes, but if I do, it opens up a lot of different avenues here at 7.5 million. So if I really feel that compelled to bring in someone like a Diogo Jota, I could bring in Diogo Jota here for game week 22 onwards. Am I bringing in a bit of a rotation risk? 100%. But I will be bringing in Jota a week earlier than intended. And of course, he would then be in for these future game weeks. You can see here, if we went down this avenue, game week 23 would look like this. Jota at home against Ipswich would be fantastic. Wood would be away against Bournemouth, and the rest of the team would pretty much pick itself. And I would be more than happy to have this team. And then again, game week 24, we have already got our Liverpool 3 in place. Jota with that double game week, and we would just roll the dice in that situation. And the rest of the team, again, kind of picks itself. And I wouldn't need to use all of my 4 free transfers. Now, what would I do if I sold Trent? That is the big thing right now, because if I was to sell to bring in Chris Wood and I sold Trent, 6.2 million available is a brilliant position to be in. It allows me to bring in pretty much any defender that I want to consider. But is there really any defender that I want to get? Well, because I'm selling a Liverpool defender and they have a double game week, unfortunately, I think the only place that I can go is going to be Konate. So my team would look like this. I would sell Trent, who I don't think is absolutely value. Coming into game week 23, again, we would have Konate at home against Ipswich, which is fine. And it would give me 1.1 million in the bank while retaining Bruno Fernandes in the team. And the beauty of that move of selling Trent is that it gives me another game week to understand whether Diogo Jota is actually the Liverpool player to buy. Because if that is the case and he is the man that I want to buy, then what I could easily do in this side, with the front 3 still looking fantastic, is then sell Bruno Fernandes in game week 23 once I've gained a bit more information, and then buy Diogo Jota in game week 23. Now, of course, the combination here is going to be Salah, Jota, Konate, rather than Salah, Jota, and Trent, which we had in previous. But I think this is an okay move in this position right now. The problem is, of course, I could get Trent back in this team in game week 23. So I basically am going to go Jota a week earlier than intended, but it allows me to keep Trent Alexander-Arnold. So it's a very difficult position to be in right now. And I don't think bringing in Chris Wood excites me, but I feel like it is a move that kind of needs to be done. So if I had to tell you exactly what I wanted to do right now, I think, reluctantly, the move that I would potentially make is selling Bruno Fernandes to Diogo Jota in order for me to then bring in Chris Wood for Vissa. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. If I was to roll the transfer, my team would look like this for game week 23, and then I look at the fixtures for game week 23 and ask myself, Nottingham Forest, away against Bournemouth, am I desperate to bring in Chris Wood? Probably not. And then I ask myself, who else do I need? Well, I need a bit of Palace possibly. And then that would allow me, with 5 free transfers, to be really experimental with this team. Something to think about right now. The issue with game week 22 is that I don't feel like for the first time in a long time, my forward can cover Chris Wood. Whereas in previous game weeks, I felt like even though Chris Wood had a good fixture, Vissa or João Pedro could do the business. And they pretty much have done that each and every game week for me. That front line there cannot cover Chris Wood, which is a problem. So let me know in the comment section, what would you do? Of course, I will update you with a team selection video. Right now, if I had to bet, it probably would be doing Vissa to Chris Wood and Bruno Fernandes down to Diogo Jota, and just really going ahead of the curve, hoping that I've got it right with Diogo Jota and Bruno Fernandes doesn't punish me in future game weeks. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'll be really interested to know. Yes, guys, okay, that's going to wrap up today's Game Week 22 transfer plans video. As you can see, my eyes are on Chris Wood and Diogo Jota, and I will update you later on in the week if I make those moves. As always, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure you drop a like and, of course, smash that subscribe button. Tomorrow we'll be having the best players to buy video, and Friday we'll have the team selection video. So there is plenty for you in the next few days. Have an amazing day, and we'll talk real soon. Take care. Cheers.